Hello Internet, Rob from A Minor Error, hope you're doing well. In this video today we're going to take a look at a product from 2Notes called the Torpedo Captor X. Let's go. Now before we get into the review and talk about the features and my opinions on the Captor X, no, 2Notes did not send it to me. I paid for it with my own money. I was building a whole rig here at home to do my virtual lessons, so my opinions are my own. They're not influenced in any way from 2Notes. Okay, so let's talk about the features of this load box. This piece of hardware from 2Notes is very feature-packed. This does a lot and can be extremely flexible. So it's part load box, part attenuator, part IR loader, and then part virtual cabinet if you use 2Notes stuff basically in their cab models will give you the ability to like adjust mic placement and things like that, as well as having a whole bunch of other features under the hood. So this does quite a lot. Let's kind of take it one at a time. So firstly, the reactive load box part of this. What does that mean? It basically means that this gives you the ability to use your amp without having it connected to a speaker. The load box is the load, like you would if you were connecting your amp right to a speaker. So that gives you the ability to use it silently, essentially. And then with the routing, you can either send it out to an actual cabinet, and then that's where the attenuator comes in. So you can step it down volume-wise, which is really useful with tube amps. A lot of times with a tube amp, it really only sounds the way you want it to sound when it's like fully cranked. So this gives you the ability, potentially even in like a live setting, to use your tones that you love at like, you know, these go to 11 volumes, but at reasonable, the sound guy won't hate you kind of volumes. So right off the bat, we've got a ton of flexibility whether this is going to be in the studio or live. Now taking a look at the Torpedo remote control, where you plug this box into your computer with USB, you've got a virtual cabinet that you can use from 2Notes with their own modeling, and this gives you the ability to grab the mic, move it around on the cab, and use a variety of different mic models as well on that cab. Now beyond the cab modeling, you've also got basically all the other tools that you need to hopefully shape your tone into something that you really like. We've got a gate, we've also got a EQ section, you've got a exciter, which is like a harmonic enhancer, and then you've got some reverb as well as a doubler, all built into the Torpedo. And with the doubler or the twin tracker, it basically gives you the ability to make your mono guitar sound kind of fake double tracked. You've also got the ability to load your own custom impulse responses here. So if you've got IRs that you love, there is that flexibility. You're not stuck using just the 2Note IRs. You're able to branch out and use some different stuff, especially if you're, really, got your tone that you love with your head and your IRs, and again, you want to be able to use it silently in the studio or potentially, live. There's so many different applications here and flexibility with this box. You can kind of make it work for however you would like to have it work. So the front panel of the 2Notes has some controls on it, which is fantastic, so that you're not stuck having to go to the software if you want to just adjust something super quick. So you've got the ability to adjust your output level. You've got a voicing control knob, a space knob, or basically the reverb decay time or wet dry, and then the ability to jump around between 6 different presets, and then an input level, both high and low. as well as a headphone output jack. So all the controls that you're likely to have to use, are right up front. So hopefully, you don't have to go plugging the thing into your computer if you don't want to. Now on the back panel, we've got a place to power it. You've got a left and right output, which are XLR outs. You've got a ground lift switch. The ability to change the speaker out volume with a little toggle, so you can do low, medium, or full output in that speaker output jack. You've got a USB connection point, a MIDI in, so you can control the Torpedo with MIDI, and then your speaker in, which has the red nut around it, letting you know, hey, that's where the hot speaker cable has to go to get plugged into the Torpedo. It's also good to point out that you can get the Captor X in different ohm loads. So mine happens to be the 8 ohm, but there are other options there. And the max wattage is 100 watts, which I think that covers most heads for the most part that you're gonna run into. All right, so let's talk about the good. I mean, the first thing about this thing is it is very, very well made. It has an all-metal housing on the outside, and it is very durable. Although I haven't taken mine out on the road, it's just been used here in my home studio, I am very confident that if you do decide to gig with it, you're gonna be fine. It's very well made. It's not a cheap piece of equipment at all. You can tell that there's some real time and love put into it, and they have not cheaped out on like the housing, the switches, all the knobs. Everything feels really solid. It is also very easy to use and kind of get up and running. I was able to practice back when my old apartment with my Mesa Mark V 25 running into my 2x12 at like bedroom whisper volumes using that attenuator to switch down the output. And so, basically able to get a fully saturated tube amp sound, pushing into the power section, literally like whisper quiet volumes. So as an attenuator goes, like if you've already got a sound that you love, but you're just like, damn, I really wish, I could just, play this at a reasonable volume so, I don't know, the wife or kids don't complain. I mean, it's gonna get the job done really well, and it's very easy to set up. You basically just power it, plug in the output of your amp into the Torpedo, out the Torpedo into the cab, and you're done. That's all you gotta do if you just want to use it as an attenuator. I would say the software itself is relatively intuitive as well. Even if you're not, real into the tech stuff, I think, a product like this is sort of geared at somebody that has, kind of 1.5 feet still in the sort of analog real world, and just wants to start to take that sound that they know and love and just switch it slightly into a virtual setting. I think the layout of the UI of the Captor remote is pretty intuitive. I mean, it makes sense what it is, and I think you're not gonna be left like scratching your head, getting frustrated, trying to cycle through page and page and page of different like dialogue boxes. I'd also have to say I found loading up a custom IR to be a relatively simple process as well. I did try to just like do it on my own without looking it up, and that didn't go well. Two Notes has a video online where they show you how to do it. It is very simple, and the process really is no big deal. So if you've got IRs that you love, to be able to load it in it, basically save them on this external piece of hardware, for hitting the road or something like that, again, I feel very confident you'd be able to get good results, and it would be a reliable piece of tech that shouldn't let you down, as opposed to potentially like trying to run everything on one like laptop or something like that. Alright, so now that we're like halfway through this video, I figured I'd plug a little bit about myself. My name is Rob. I'm a Berklee College of Music grad, and I create guitar reviews, product reviews, and release my original music here on my YouTube channel. Depending on when you're watching this video in the future, I might even have a couple virtual lesson slots still available. I'm kind of opening up a couple more hours on my Sundays that I normally don't work. So if you're thinking, hey, you like my vibe, you like the way I'm playing, you'd like to take a couple lessons, hit me up. The contact info's all down below to shoot me an email, and we can talk about pricing and scheduling and all that kind of good stuff. So continuing on with the review. So let's talk about the negative. Unfortunately for me, the negative was enough where it was a deal breaker and I'm parting ways with the Captor. So when I teach my virtual lessons, I want everything, in the box. I don't want like a cabinet that has to be, be heard and mic'd up inside the room. I want everything to be, kind of its own self-contained thing. And because of that, I really need the flexibility to really mix the tone and dial in the tone correctly. In other words, there's a huge difference between the way an amp just sort of sounds in the room and the way it fills the space versus when you stick a couple close mics on it. And all of a sudden, there's a lot more processing that needs to happen for that tone to really be usable, especially when you're in the high gain metal world of things, which is what I do, right? I'm not like a blues guitar player, and I'm definitely not a jazz guitar player. So it's high gain stuff. High gain stuff, to get it usable in a virtual lesson setting, really does need some processing. And there was really two main problems that I ran into. So the first one is that I don't think the 2-Notes IR capture sounds very good. I bought the Mesa Boogie packs, because I've used a Mesa Boogie rig for like 15, almost 20 years. So I know what Celestion Vintage 30s sound like. I know what I want my amp to sound like. And I really just don't think the IRs are good, like at all. Especially compared to other things that are on the market right now. I'm a big believer in Neural DSP. I have a Quad Cortex now, and despite the Quad Cortex's failings as well, it's not a perfect product. It is much more equipped to get a usable high gain tone, again, in the box. So the IRs, I think, really, they kind of suck, actually, in my opinion, when it comes to high gain cab sound. Now, if you're a blues guitar player, maybe you'll have a little bit more success with their own IRs. Obviously, you could use your own IRs if you have some that you like, but then you do lose the ability to adjust the mic placement, or mic's placement, really, right? So a big part I've found when I'm dialing my tone is I need a bright mic and a dark mic, and I want to blend those together in some kind of way, adjust their positioning on the cone, and then how they're blended together. And by using custom IRs, you lose that ability. So you have to kind of really like your custom IRs. Obviously, you have a fader, so you can control the independent volume of either of them, but you lose some flexibility. And for me, I really am used to using the ability to just grab the virtual mic, drag it around until I find something that I like. So that was really my first problem. Was I spent the money, I bought the Mesa packs, which were 4x12s and 2x12s, and they don't sound good, in my opinion. And this video is actually part of a series that I'm doing, where I'm doing a bit of a shootout between Neural DSP and just like a real Mesa amp and cab mic'd up, the 2-Notes thing, and then also taking a Mesa amp and dumping it through the Neural cab, which I actually found to be the best result. Kind of spoiler alert for my videos that are on the way. So that was my problem. I did not like the way the cabs sound. They just don't sound good to me. They don't sound like either what I know or what I'm able to then tweak and get there. And then that's sort of the second problem, is that high gain tone, especially when you're dialing in a lead tone, you need high pass and a low pass filter, and there's only a high pass filter built in. You don't have a low-pass filter built in. So the thing that I really need to control the fizzy top end that you don't want to hear, especially on a lead tone, it's really hard to dial it in correctly because it's just a parametric band up top. This is a major mistake, in my opinion, and one of the biggest things that Neural DSP has actually really gotten right in their X series of plugins as they've been updating them. They've been putting in high and low pass filters, which, again, for mixing, for getting something ready, that would sound good in a mix. It really is all about trimming the fat on either end and finding whatever you like and being able to adjust that slope and having that flexibility. So the EQ section just straight up didn't work for me either, because sure, I could tame the low correctly, but then the highs were either too much or too little, and then trying to use the exciter to bring in the bright end, it was just sort of compiling crappy sounding cab to begin with, then the processing I just didn't like and was just very frustrating. So that is really the deal breaker for me. I found it did not work for my in-the-box scenario. So again, if you're a different style guitar player, or maybe you just know your way around it better than me, maybe you're able to get that to work. But for me, it did not. And by switching to the Quad Cortex, I've been able to just nail my sound that I know, that I've used forever when I've mixed and put together my videos here on my channel, whether it's my guitar reviews or my original music. Like, I know what I need to do to get those tones to work in my mixes, and just couldn't do it with just the Torpedo equipment as the cab and then the processor. So again, just my opinions. I found that the cab IR, not very good, and then you pair that with a lack of flexibility in kind of the most obvious way, in my opinion, and that was kind of the downfall for me. In my opinion as well, I also find the twin tracker and any of these doublers, whether it's the neural doubler or anybody else, the doublers are just weird and they're phasey, and I never like the way they sound. I mean, I could see a way live, you know, like John Petrucci does this all the time, where he's used different methods to try to make his single guitar sound double-tracked, and I've never liked the way it sounded live when I've seen Dream Theater, because yeah, it's this weird phasey chorus effect going on. So I find the twin tracker kind of a waste of time. Again, your results may vary. Maybe you love it and it works exactly for giving you that sonic width that you're looking for. Maybe it would work great for you in your band playing live or something like that. But for me personally, at least, it doesn't work for me. So, you know, again, the biggest issue is the IRs, and then the lack of flexibility in the EQ section, but also the twin tracker is kind of a myth. Alright, so in conclusion, should you consider the Torpedo X? I do think you should. I mean, it's a fantastic product. It's very well made, and it just depends on your scenario and application. How are you planning on using this thing? If you're trying to use it like me, and you want it to be just self-contained little box, I was actually thinking at one point maybe I get a couple different heads. I have my Mesa Mark V 25, maybe pick up like one of the Victory ones. Little lunchbox amp heads are so much fun. But man, nah, it just fell down in the end for me, and I don't have IRs that I'm like in love with. I like the way the neural ones sound, and I like the way, you know, adjust the ability to adjust the mic axis and flip out the mics and find a tone that you like. That has been my workflow. So yeah, it just didn't work for me, but the product is really well made. It's built like a tank. To have the controls out front for stuff that you might need normally, the ability to knock down that volume of your amp and use it as an attenuator if you have a cab you really like, or if you are going to still be miking up a cab potentially. Yeah, there's a ton of flexibility here, and it is really well made, and I do understand why most of the reviews online are very glowing. All the reviews I watched of it before I got it really liked it, and then yeah, I just found that the cab IRs, they sucked in my opinion, and just the EQ flexibility wasn't there, so that was the deal breaker. But I think there are plenty of musicians that would find success using it in the box or even beyond there for different scenarios, both live or in the studio. So thank you for watching this video. If you like the video, hit, you know, like, thumbs up, give me a sub, all that kind of stuff, you know, helps feed the algorithm. I appreciate the support. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.